Tash Dile, this is Sakina Batt, and you're watching In Conversation with Tibettv. Today, I am glad to introduce you to Frantisek Kopriva, who is a chairperson of Czech Parliamentary Group for Tibet and a vice chairperson of Committee for European Affairs of the Chamber of Deputies. We also have Dana Balcarova, a member of the Czech Parliamentary Group for Tibet and a chairwoman of Committee on Environment of the Chamber of Deputies. I'm really glad to have you both here. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
So you both have been the founding members of the Friends of Tibet group in the Czech Parliament, known as the Czech Parliamentary Group for Tibet. So tell us, how does this group work?
We established the group in October 2018, and the beginning point or the main motivation was that we met the former ambassador from Geneva's office, Mr. Ngodub Dorji, and we met him in the parliament. So he introduced us this thought that we can have an interest group or support group. We just sent an email with Dana to all our colleagues. And since supporting Tibet has quite good tradition in the Czech Republic, we got many answers, dozens members of parliament answered that they want to start this group. So we just arranged a meeting and we signed a declaration with our goals, which are like promoting Tibetan culture and the middle way approach. And it was established. And now we have 53 members in both chambers of the parliament. In the Czech Republic, the support for Tibet is pretty big. So for example, today there will be gathering, a protest in front of the Chinese embassy in Prague. And that is not organized by us, that is organized by Lungta NGO and also Amnesty International, the Czech branch, participates. But our colleagues will speak there. Mr. Rabas, the co-chair of the group from the Senate, and our colleague Jan Lipavsky will speak there. So we try to actually grab any opportunity where we can speak out and remind even to the Chinese embassy that we are not blind, we will not close our eyes, and we will keep reminding that what they do in Tibet is not good, and they should stop violating human rights and civic rights.
So what motivated you both to start this group, the Tibet Support Group, and when was your first connection with the issue of Tibet?
Since His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, is quite popular in the Czech Republic because of his close connection to our first president Václav Havel, we all learn about Tibet in schools and we heard it since childhood. And I remember I wrote an essay about occupied territories in the world in high school. So I read about the self-immolations and violations of human rights. So I always wanted to support Tibet. So after we've got elected to the parliament, it was just a matter of time, and it was quite natural to establish the group.
Dana, what about you? What motivated you to champion the cause of Tibet?
I think this is about similarity between Czech and Tibetan people and about common history. There is something strong bond between this Tibetan and Czech people, and it's because of communistic regime, and they repress freedom and human rights, and it's really similar. I think it's something like solidarity between our countries.
And you said that you gained freedom in 1989, right?
Yeah. I was a 9-year-old girl, and I was really touched in this time of Russian invasion in Czech Republic, and it was really hard for us, for our family. Maybe it wasn't so hard like in Tibet, but I remember this feeling, and this we didn't do nothing. It was really horrible. So I really wish to Tibetan people freedom for them.
Nowadays, you see that in China, the repression is taking place more and more. The situations are worsening and it's not improving. We can see that when it comes to human rights and also in environment and everything. So do you think that there will be a similar fortune for Tibet like it happened for Czech Republic?
I think yes, because Czech people didn't lost hope, and they try to inside stay free, and nobody knows if it's happened and when it's happened, and it's nobody think that it will be so early in 1998, and it was it was like bomb of freedom, and it was really nice, and I'm really happy that I was active in this time, and it's made me happy till now.
Okay, so Frantisek, you are the youngest member of the parliament, and most of the members in the parliament are more experienced because they have been in the field for a longer time. So how does it feel being the youngest member of the parliament? What are the advantages and disadvantages?
Well, it's not easy to be that young, and of course I like decades of experiences in business maybe. But I think it's also good to have this point of view of my generation. So for example, now the climate change in Europe is starting to be #1 issue, and it's the high school students and university students who raised this topic, like Greta Thunberg, for example. So I think the diversity in the parliament is good. So I wish there are like old, young, men, women, minorities, because the more diverse the parliament is, the more fruitful the debate is. I'm also glad that this is reflected in our support group, that we have also even people from the government parties and from right-wing parties, left-wing parties, conservatives, liberals like us. But we have the same cause, even with you, and it's human rights and justice and freedom for Tibet.
Dana, you have been in the parliament for a very long time, in the Czech parliament, and during those times, like how frequently were you able to discuss the issue of Tibet in the parliament?
I'm not so long in Czech parliament. I'm here 2.5 years, like Frantisek, because I'm not a career politic. I was activist, I was IT specialist, so my career is changing, and now I'm politician, but it's not for a long time.
Like, were the issues of Tibet discussed in the parliament ever when you were there?
Yes, sure, because we are the human rights. It's a very popular or very important topic. What about we care and talk and discussion in parliament. Yeah.
Okay. So we are all aware of the human rights and the environmental concerns in Tibet. So Frantisek, since you are a staunch human rights defender, and Dana, you being an environmental expert, how frequently and how strongly were you able to bring these issues of Tibet in the parliament?
Honestly, quite often. Not at the plenary session all the time, even though the Senate, for example, passed last year a resolution, and one of the points of the resolution was that they urged the Chinese government to stop violating human rights and exploitation in the Uyghur area and in Tibet. And sometimes we mention human rights in Tibet at the plenary, but our group also focus on different channels. So, for example, 3 weeks ago we hosted an exhibition, and it was organized by an NGO called Lungta, and they asked schools, the children, to draw and paint how they imagine Tibet based on books and movies. And many schools took part, and the best pictures we showed, we have installed in the parliament, and we also, one of the schools visited us to see the pictures. If there's a Tibetan on a visit in Prague, we also invite him to the parliament, including Mr. Sityong Lobsang Sengay, who has been to the parliament twice last year, and also in the Prague City Hall. So I think our scope is pretty broad, and we are looking for other opportunities to promote what's happening in Tibet.
So how receptive are the other parliamentarians and the government on the cause of Tibet?
Well, our government's position is still the same. It's the one united Chinese policy. Unfortunately, they don't mention human rights as, for example, our party wished. We want the human rights to be on the same level as, for example, business in the negotiations. But we're glad that we have some members of the government parties on board in the group, so they can slowly change the approach, and I think little steps are also very helpful. We have some famous parliamentarians in the group, for example, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Karel Schwarzenberg, or former Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies, Mrs. Miroslava Němcová. So we are a new party, but we also have in the group parliamentarians who have been in the parliament for 2 decades.
So Dana, tell us, how often do you get to speak on the environmental crisis of Tibet in the parliament?
Last year we arranged a special seminar with presentation about climate damage in Tibet and about nature disaster there. And it was first time when we talked about climate change generally. And here, yesterday, I had a meeting with specialists of environment in Tibet here, and we make agreement that we prepare something new, and we will meet in COP, it's climate conference. This year it will be in, I don't know, Bristol, some English, Glasgow, thank you. So maybe we arrange some special side event about nature disaster and climate change process in Tibet.
So how effective do you think these events are?
I think information is very important because there is blockade of information from Tibet and nobody knows how strong and how brutal is damaged their nature and water sources and glaciers melting, and it's not subject of information of reports, and I think it's very important to give it on the table and talk about it.
So Frantisek, tell us something about the Czech Parliamentary Group for Tibet. What is it seeking to achieve?
Well, of course, we would be happy if we achieved that the Chinese government followed the rules and Tibetans can return from exile to Tibet, but we don't know when it will happen. It could take months, it could take decades, we don't know. So we actually admire that you keep your enthusiasm and positive attitude. It's inspiring for us. In the meantime, we will try to do our best through, as I said, the events that can connect people in the Czech Republic on the European level, because our colleague Mikuláš Peksa was elected a chair of the support group in the European Parliament. And of course, with you here in exile in Dharamsala, with the exile government, CTA. So I think there's still a lot of work ahead of us.
So Dana, you've been to Dharamshala after 10 years, and Dharamshala is actually the residence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So tell us about your visit here. How are you liking it?
I like mountains, so I'm really happy if I'm on mountains. It's nice area here, maybe so crowded in season, but I was here because of His Holiness Dalai Lama, of course, and it was really nice to be in this place, but now it's much more intensive because I'm here with my colleagues and I be official politic, and I'm really proud and happy of it, and it's really fine because I'm more helped too.
Okay, Frantisek, this is your first time coming to Dharamshala, so how are you liking it?
And it's as well my first time to India, so it's different for us as Czechs, of course, but I love it here. I like mountains as well, but I think the best part of our visit is the Tibetans, the people, because we can see the genuine kindness and warm hospitality, and we sometimes lose our words. We even cannot describe it sometimes, how we are pleased and honored to be here. Yes, so we really enjoyed our stay. We've seen a lot of places in the past 3 days. We visited the Norbulinka Institute, the school TCV, the museums, the archive, the library.
Traditional Tibet.
Yeah, medicine museum, and we of course had like official meetings with the government, with the parliament, with the Department of Information and International Relations. So it was intense, but we really enjoyed it, and we will of course refer back in the Czech Republic.
And you have also visited Central Tibetan Administration, right?
Yes, we visited the Central Tibetan Administration. We had a meeting on Sunday, and we also handed out this invitation letter. It's by the Prague mayor, Zdeněk Hřib, because Sikyong Lobsang Sengay has been officially received at the Prague City Hall last year. And we also have this declaration on behalf of the whole group, which is signed by dozens and dozens members of the parliament. So we brought the signatures, and we will give them to CTA, and we are really honored that we can represent the whole group.
Thank you so much, both of you, for coming to our show, and also thank you for championing the cause of Tibet. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next episode of In Conversation with Tibettv.